Hello, my name is Lisa Best, and I'm starting a YouTube channel because I have just finished writing a book called The Heart-Centered Habit, Perceiving Through the Heart of the Matter. And this was a book that I began writing, it started to come to me about 4 years ago, but I would say in the past year and a half is where I've really dedicated trying to spend energy and time in bringing it about. But the reason why I felt led to start a YouTube channel is to kind of preface the book and maybe bring an understanding that between what I speak about in the book, which is the head-centered me and the heart-centered me. So that's what this video is going to be about today. The head-centered me is the part of me that it's a way that I learned to be in the world, and it's a way that I learned to conform to my relationships in the world. It's a way that I learned to fit in and to not stand out like a sore thumb. I learned to be at a young age, and this was very unconscious. It's not like I was consciously creating a head-centered me, but it happened because when I was born and I was very young, I can remember feeling like there's no way that I can fit into this world. I didn't understand the world, I didn't understand wrong, I didn't understand evil, and I didn't understand the standards because everybody had a different standard that they lived by. Everybody had a different right and wrong. Everybody functioned from a different belief system. And I felt like God forgot to give me a belief system when I was born because I had no beliefs. I was just extremely open, and my heart was open, my mind was open, and I was very empathic and very intuitive. So I could be around people and I could feel what their thoughts were. I could feel what their beliefs were. I could feel what their judgments were. I could feel their repressed emotions that were within them that only they experienced when they weren't in public, but like they would experience in their family relationships or in their private relationships, but not the emotions that they would express out, in the world. My dog barks at everything. So, Daisy, come here. Come here. Sorry, she's probably going to bark because she barks at everything. So, anyway, I was very empathic and I learned to become a social chameleon. So, I realized at a very young age that when I tapped into other people's energy, and I reflected back to them their beliefs, and when I reflected back to them what they considered to be right, good, and true, and okay, and safe, they felt secure and safe. And I had many, many, many relationships. I wasn't one that felt like I had a solid sense of identity. I actually feel like I had no identity. And I felt that the world saw that as a problem, and that the world, that there was kind of this underlying message to the world of you have to find yourself and you have to find, where you fit in, what group you fit into. You have to discover what are your beliefs, what do you believe is right and wrong. And I thought that it was something that I needed to discover out in the world. So I always looked to my relationships to guide me in what was right, what was wrong, what was true, what was okay, what was safe. The only problem with that was being the head-centered me is that I grew up in a time where the world was getting more and more comfortable with diversity. And so there was diversity, unlike what my parents went through. They grew up in a very small town in Dresden, Ohio, where there wasn't a lot of diversity. There was only a few churches, so there wasn't a lot of religious diversity. There wasn't a lot of cultural diversity. for me, through my elementary, I went to a predominantly African American school, and I felt, which maybe it wasn't the case, but I felt like I was the minority being a white American. And so I really looked to the African Americans. They were the children that I went to school with. All my best friends were African American. And then we ended up moving across town when I was in 5th grade, and it was more, I guess you could say, an upper class elementary school. And so I went from being culturally diverse to all of a sudden everybody kind of being the same economic status. There was very little diversity. But anyway, with all my relationships, I was always very intrigued with things that were different, things that I loved change. And so I noticed that a lot of my relationships didn't like change. And most people really didn't welcome diversity. And I mean not diversity of skin color and things like that, but diversity of the way that you live your life and what you believe to be true for you. And so as I went through middle school and then high school, I just got more and more lost in the head-centered me. And really I was doing all this unconsciously, but I was really just mirroring back to people their beliefs. And I had no solid beliefs. I had no real true sense of what was right and wrong for me. Then when I was in college, I hit a very, very low point because I felt dead on the inside, where I just felt like I didn't want to go on anymore. I didn't get this world, and I really didn't understand why I was even born. Why did what was I supposed to do here? I was in college and supposed to figure out my career. And I just looked to other people to tell me what I was good at. And at the time, I was working out a lot, and I was focused on becoming healthy, and people said, yep, that's what you're good at. That's what you're supposed to do. So that's what I did, even though it didn't feel like it was really, I guess, my purpose. So after many, many years, when I was 23, I hit a very, very low point in my life, and I decided that I was going to search for the truth for myself. And I did it in such a way that I just was so hungry and so thirsty for truth because I felt so dead on the inside. And I started to study every philosophy I could get my hands on. I started in the Christian religion because that's the religion that I grew up in. So I started to study Jesus' life and the disciples, and ended up just really understanding Jesus in a way that most of my Christian friends didn't really get. I really got Jesus. Jesus, I felt like I was Jesus. Jesus knows me and I know him, but I don't see him as separate from me. The way in which he lived his life in this very, what I call heart-centered way, was not popular during his time, and it's still not popular today. And it's where we surrender our head's perspective. The difference between the head and the heart. So when I say the head-centered me is focused outward, and it's absorbing information from the world. And so we create our beliefs and ideas and thoughts that come from outside of us. So it's kind of this outside in. So the head can become an information center, and it can hold on to that information and attach to it and believe it to be the truth of who we are. So the head-centered me says, I am my body. I am my family. I am the traditions passed down to me in my family. I am my experiences in this lifetime. I am my thoughts. I am my beliefs. I am what I feel. I am what I see. And Then the heart-centered me is an information center as well, but it is connected to your spiritual core, to our spiritual core. And so, even quantum physicists have proven that we are 99.9999% this infinite energy, that at the core and at the center of every atom is this unified field of infinite energy. Also, same thing as infinite information. And it is believed and even proven that all energy, like the power of creation, comes from within, and it comes from the core of existence. It comes from the essence. It comes from the invisible space. And the crazy thing is that at the center of every atom in my body, that energy is connected to the center of every atom in your body. It's one field, and it connects every single atom in the universe. It connects all of existence. So you can literally sense through your own being, through your spiritual essence, the wisdom of the ages. You can sense, it's almost like having an infinite library of wisdom within you. Everything that has ever occurred or happened, that information is literally within the atoms of your body, and it's in the core of your being. So the heart-centered me is the part of me that senses into the truth. It senses into that infinite wisdom, not just to this particular time frame called my lifetime. I'm 40 years old, so it's not just limited by my experiences in the 40 years that I have lived as this body. It's connected to all lifetimes. It's connected to the beginning and the end of the universe. It's connected to everything, and that's what the Bible called God, and that's what many religions called, they have different names for it. Prana, Chi, Holy Spirit, universal consciousness, Buddha nature. There's many names for it, because the thing is that it doesn't have a name. We're the ones giving it names. So it actually has infinite names. So the heart-centered me is the part of me that is the part of me that when I was young had this empathic and intuitive abilities. I could sense other people from the inside out. I could sense my ancestors that I never met. I could sense Jesus, who obviously I've never physically met Jesus, but I know him to his core, and I know the essence in which he was connected to, and the nature, that infinite nature that he connected his head and his voice to. I know that. It's what I am, and it's what you are, and it's what all of existence is, and it's the unified field of existence. So it's what unites us. It's where we are all the same. And the head-centered me is the center of information where we feel separate from one another. So when we view through the head-centered me's lens, we're viewing through a limited perspective of the experiences that we have had in this lifespan. In this body, for me it would be 40 years. So it's a limited perspective. Well, imagine that perspective compared to the heart-centered me, which is all of existence throughout time and space. Right? That's just like a little, imagine the heart-centered me's perception being like as vast as the ocean. And the head-centered me's perception is like one drop of water in the ocean. So it's no wonder that when we're viewing reality through the head-centered me, and the head-centered me has not what the Bible calls repented, which means to do a 180-degree turn, because the head-centered me is so focused outward. But when it shifts and turns inward and senses into the information from our spiritual essence, which I call the heart-centered me, it surrenders to the bigger picture. It surrenders to the information that's not coming from the outside in, but it's actually coming from the inside out. It's actually coming from our authentic divine nature. It's actually coming from our God nature. It's actually coming from that which we really are. And so from the time I was 23 years old and I started to study Jesus' life, that is what started to awaken within me. Was I started to remember this nature that I was when I was very, very, very young, before I started to become that social chameleon and started to absorb the judgments and belief systems through my relationships to the physical world. I started to remember that nature again. That was it had a sense of wonder and magic and miracles and expansiveness, and I felt one with everybody and everything, and I felt one with nature, but yet I didn't feel like I had a solid sense of self. I didn't feel like one particular identity. I just kind of flowed with life. I harmonized with all of life. I didn't want for anything. I didn't want this and not want that. I didn't judge anybody as wrong, when I was very young. I was just free, completely fulfilled in all that I was, and I hadn't even experienced the world when I was, really young, and I was just completely free. So from the time I was 23, that began to awaken within me. And then about the time I was 37, 38, I had received so many insights throughout that period of between the age of 23 and 37, so many experiences. I would be washing dishes, and I'm married and I have 2 children, and they were very young at the time. And all of a sudden, this information would just start flowing through me from my heart, just start flowing through me from the core of my being. And I would just be standing there as if I'm speaking to an audience, but I'm doing dishes, and I would be talking. But this message was coming through me, and I was just like speaking, but it was as if I was the teacher, like a spiritual teacher, but at the same time I was the student. So I was learning from this message that was coming through me as me. It was crazy. And my children would come in, they were about, at the time, 4 or 5 years old, maybe 5, 6, and they would come and sit on the rug right behind me, and they would just sit there and like as if they were basking in this energy, or this loving energy that was coming through me. They had no idea what I was saying, but they just loved being in that energy. And then as soon as I was done, it would just, almost like a valve, shut off. I'd go back to doing the dishes. They would get up and run off and play. And every single time, it would be like an hour had passed. And it felt like timelessness. I literally felt like I was transported into a whole different dimension when this was happening. This happened to me time after time after time again. And then I started to record them. And then I started to write them down. And then when I was 37, I started to see that it was time. My mind was ready. The head-centered me was ready to put all these pieces together. And as I did that, I created this book called The Heart-Centered Habit, Perceiving Through the Heart of the Matter. And this book was more a gift to me. I don't even know if it will even sell one copy. And that's okay if it doesn't, because it was a gift to me. It was my head's return journey to surrendering to my authentic heart nature. Like right now, it is in a completely surrendered state. It has total faith and trust in the information that's coming from within my heart. And it's given its thoughts, its feelings, its voice, its beliefs. It's given everything over to the heart. And the heart has full reign. The rational mind has surrendered to the intuitive mind, and the intuitive mind is the heart-centered nature that I'm speaking of. And so what comes through me is just flowing through me from my core, from my soul, from that which I was before I had a body, that which I am now, and that which I will be when the body is gone. And I do feel that this is my final go around. Like, I really felt like I don't really understand, if there's multiple lifetimes or things like that, because I know that in essence there, in that dimension, there is no time or space, and I experience that in the body. Like right now I'm in this like timelessness, but I do feel that this is the only gift that I have to offer the world. This is what my purpose in life is, to be authentic, is to be the real, true, authentic me. And I do feel that this was my final battle, because I've gone through so many battles throughout, where it was kind of this battle between my head and my heart. And so many times, my head just couldn't fully surrender, and now it's just ready. It's integrated to a point where it can't go back to the old way of being in control and being in charge. So where my circumstances are right now in this moment, everything that the head-centered me throughout my life has created and built is falling apart. Everything. So if you were to look at my life, you would think, wow, she's not abundant, I don't have, my career has fallen apart. I don't really have any friends that I hang out with. I have my sister, who's more like my soul sister, that knows me. We don't see each other as often as we would like, and that's just where we're at in life right now. And I have my husband, who's been on this journey with me. And that's about it. Everybody else I love. Our paths aren't crossing right now. And I don't really hang out with anybody. It's just been, I would say for the past year, it's been my head and my heart. It's been this relationship. I've spent more time and energy on spending more time with my heart than I have with my relationships in the physical world. And I know that this too shall pass, and it will change. But I'm on the ground floor right now of building and creating from the heart-centered me for the first time in my life. And I don't know what that will look like. I don't know where this will take my life, where the heart is going to go. It's always one step at a time. I woke up today and my heart guided me to do this video, and of course I've done many other things because I'm a mom and I homeschool our 2 children. And I've cleaned and done laundry and dishes and made them lunch and done many things, yard work and grocery shopped and things like that. But when it comes to growing and expanding into more relationships, into the physical world, that I just thought that we could chronicle it and see. So you'll see as I see. You'll get to go on this journey with me, because like I said, I am at the ground floor. My book right now is in Balboa Press's hands. I have submitted my manuscript, and it takes about 3 months for the book to become a physical manifested thing. So for now, I'm just going to do videos. That's what I feel led to do. And I would love it if you have any questions. I really just wanted to share my life and my journey, because I feel that it's really the greatest gift that I have to give to any relationship that I have to the physical world. Because it's who I am. It's what I am. And it's not a me that's right or wrong. It's not a me that fits in. It's not a me that conforms. It's just the raw, vulnerable, real, genuine, authentic, here it is. I don't know what the next moment is, but this is what it is right now. And it might look different, and it might sound different, and it might come out with different words in different ways. and I'm open to all of that. So I hope in some way that you got something from this video, and I just wish you blessings on your journey, wherever you're at in your journey, and of discovering and realizing your heart's voice. Thank you.